One of the most famous scenes in all of saga literature is chapter 116 from Njál's saga, where Hildigunnur goads Flosi to take action against the man who killed her husband, Höskuldur. This happens so often in the sagas that we have a specific term to describe women who perform this kind of goading. They are called feud wetters. Chapter 116 is elaborately staged, and the author underscores the event as a turning point in the saga. Hildigunnur's preparations are intentional and highly symbolic, reminding Flosi of his duty to take revenge and uphold the family honor. There seem to be certain unexplained traditions that lurk beneath the surface in this particular scene.
It serves a literary function, and then it has a social function, which might be based on reality. I mean, scholars don't really agree, but there is some evidence that suggests that the women really did do this in some circumstances, not all of the time. But the killing scene itself, when Höskuldur is killed, the author is really careful to kind of tally who exactly deals him which wounds. And then he's lying there, and he's bled out, and then Hildigunnur comes and finds him. And what's really interesting is that she doesn't seem to lose control according to the saga. I mean, she takes his cloak, which had been a gift from Flosi, her kinsman, and he had been wearing when he's killed, and she takes the cloak and kind of uses it to collect all this blood and maybe some pieces of his actual flesh, and she's very careful about all of the things that she's doing, so she has this bloody cloak that she's obviously going to keep and use as a prop if she needs to. And then Flosi, a little later, when he comes, the saga author also relates how she's prepared everything. And so she's put up tapestries, she's put up like a high seat, which is a bit like a throne, or at least he calls it a throne. And she's made all of these preparations. And I mean, to me, this doesn't suggest a woman out of control. She very much knows what she's doing. And he's the one who gets angry. Yeah. And he says, well, I don't really want you to make all these gestures for me. I'm not a king or an earl. And so she, I think, knows immediately, like, oh, he's not gonna do blood revenge. He's gonna go through the arbitration, the legal system. And she doesn't want that, obviously. So that's when she has to enact this wedding scene, which is highly ritualized. She talks to him for a long time. We don't know what they talk about, but the saga author says that they talked quietly. And then she leaves the room, and he's eating, and she comes back in, and then she's taken down her hair, she's crying, she's saying all these things that are very formulaic. I mean, the words that she actually utters, there's a lot of alliteration, and it's formulaic language. It's almost like a curse or some kind of enchantment. So I mean, it's very clear that there's a cultural background here. That this isn't something that she's just making up. It's almost like, because they were talking for so long, you wonder whether he is actually complicit, and he actually wants to exact blood revenge, but he wants to come across as like this man of the law and this modern man who goes through the legal system and doesn't engage in violence. But he needs her to enact this ritual in order to kind of get social sanction almost, to go that route. And it looks like he might not be able to go down that route without some prompting. And so she participates in this as well. And I mean, I think it's incredibly ambivalent and subtle, and I don't think the author wants us to know, you know, how it is. But I mean, there's also this idea that women, I mean, I don't think calling them scapegoats for male violence is exactly the right way of dealing with this, because there are so many other scenes of violence where there isn't any egging ritual. So I mean, men are fully able to commit violence when it suits them, but there is this kind of exploration of us as humans, I think, in this scene as well, that presents this kind of dichotomy between the aspect of ourselves that wants to be controlled and rational and moderate, and yes, keep our emotions restrained and not just give in to our feelings, but at the same time we also have a part of our psyche that that does want revenge and like is angry and feels guilt and shame and all these things, and so I think the literary aspect of this kind of scene might also go back to the human psyche. So I think the scene functions in so many different ways or on different levels.